Well, I hope you all had a nice social time there. Anyway. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, sure. Take it away.
Okay. All right. Revit schedules. So let me get the right screen up. And you don't need to see that. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be a high-level overview of Revit schedules, just to show you guys, if you haven't used them before, the basics. And Gabe's going to help. He'll answer questions if anybody has questions. And I kind of ate into our Q&A time a little bit here, so I'll try and get through it a little quickly. But again, it's mostly just to show you what you potentially can do, and then if you have ideas or stuff you want to explore on your own, you know, we're certainly here to help. It's, you know, gives you, if you know, we have lots of great tools that do a lot of automation, but sometimes it's nice to just understand some things that you can, you know, put a little bit more power into your own hands of understanding what you can do. So that being said, we'll get this started. Okay, so we can use Revit schedules for a lot of different things, but what we're going to talk about today is organizing model data and exporting it to an Excel spreadsheet. So there's schedule categorization that's set up, and that determines which parameters are available. So that's the very first step, is important. Understanding the parameter types that can be used in a schedule. Add parameters to a schedule, we'll talk about that, and then use them in a formula. So you can take information that's there and put together your own formulas to do a little math or visibility or whatever. We'll talk about combining parameters, kind of like concatenating. It's a visual combination of different, you know, different elements. You can do conditional formatting in a schedule. You can actually use your schedule to change parameter values in your model, and we'll look at that, which is nice. If you have a little like QC check for yourself and you have a schedule created and there are instance parameters showing up, you can actually change them right in that schedule, and it will change it in your model. And then we'll just talk about exporting it to Excel. So first, some schedule examples. So let me bring up Revit. Oops. So the first one we're going to look at is wall area. So we use this one in the sales model phase, and it lets us take the total square footage of the different wall systems. If it's CW for curtain wall or SW for strip window or whatever they want to call it, however the estimators need it, we can pull that total square footage of the system based on using the elevation parameter and assigning it to walls. So when we pick on a wall, just like we use for the takeoff program, we've got that elevation parameter down here on the bottom. So if we look at this total area schedule, it's giving us the different systems: curtain wall, guardrail, strip wall, and I have a little, or strip window, and I have a little extra thing in there we're going to go in and look at later. But if I highlight, say, the curtain wall in the schedule, and I switch back to my 3D view, it's the same thing as telling it to highlight in the model. It lets you check yourself quickly to see if you have the right stuff set. So you can just, you do a quick visual and you know, check yourself. Do you have all the right, is all the right stuff highlighted? So schedules are quick to make and quick to check yourself. And another example, material takeoff. So we do a takeoff at bid for the total square footage of the non-glazed in metal panels. And so that means, you know, what we're using the schedule for is we're actually getting that total folded out dimension of however we've extruded that panel shape. So if it has bends and folds and turns and it's mitered and all that, that's all okay, because we're going to pick all that up. Well, this one's going to pick up a little extra because we didn't miter it. But every fold and every turn in this family, this parapet profile, every little bit is going to get captured, so we can get as accurate as possible at that bid. And so what that looks like is a material schedule. So we just filter it by its material name. In this case, we're actually counting the panels, and then we have a total square footage of 44,200 square feet. So we'll look at that, how we came up with that later too. And then another example is curtain panel schedule. So this one, we're looking at taking a unit count that's broken out by system. Again, that's for bid. So if we go to that unit count by system, You can see we've got curtain wall, strip window, and we've got, again, that little CWA, and this gives us that unit count. So these are all things that help the estimator, and we're just pulling parameters and, you know, creating these schedules, and we can export them all to Excel quickly, and they're very fast to make. Okay, so that's just a couple of examples. We have loads of them that we use. You can be very creative with these. So first of all, looking at the types. When you're first setting up a schedule and you right-click on that schedule quantities option, you get all of these different choices. So if you just do new schedule, it's just a multi-category schedule, it's generic. Graphical column schedule for structure, I believe. I've never used one of those. The material takeoff is the one we use to get that square footage of the panel. You can do a sheet list, note block, a view list. View lists are nice because you can check and organize your views in your model as well. So they can also then be filtered to another category once you go into the next step. So after you've set up which type, in this case, I just went with the first option, which is the multi-category schedule, you get a big long list, too long to show here, of all of Revit's categories, and this helps drill it down a little bit more. So if I don't pick anything here, then I get a certain set of options. If I pick curtain panels, it's going to start looking at parameters that are only available for curtain panels. And then after you do get into that next schedule setup, you can use your parameters in there and values in them to also filter information. So if I have a curtain panel schedule, these are the some of, you know, this is a list of available parameters in that category. And then I could also select elements in this and add it to the schedule and use that to filter as well. So that's all in the initial setup, is knowing what is your goal, what do you need to look at, and then making sure you're grabbing the right kind of schedule. If you have linked elements in, you can have it read through down to those links. So again, the options selected when setting that up really do determine which parameters will be available. If you're trying to make one and you can't get what you need, you know, check what type you're using. That's the first check. So there are multiple parameter types, and not all of them work in schedules. So we have family parameters, shared parameters, project parameters, and global parameters. So you're going to hear all of these different terms. Maybe you've used them all, but not all of them necessarily show up in a schedule or are available. So the family parameter, it shows up only in the family and will not be available to be used in the schedule if it's just something that you just make right there in the family. So you can see here, I've got this family parameter. I did not create the parameter in the family from a shared parameter. So it's a family parameter, able to name right here, just used in a formula just in this family. And I know I never need it for a schedule. So it's okay to just use a family parameter. If you do need a parameter to show up over and over and over again in all your families, but it doesn't need to be in a schedule, it's still a good idea to make it shared potentially, so that it's always, you're always pulling it from that same shared parameter file that we're going to look at next. Because then you're typing it the same way. If parameters are very finicky. If I have cap head as an uppercase C and an uppercase H in this family, and then I have cap head and a lowercase c and a lowercase h in another family, it'll actually see it when it goes into the, you know, in the environment, it will see it as two different parameters, even though it's the same name. So it's definitely case sensitive. So all the more reason to put it in a shared parameter file, so you can always just go pick that first one you created, and then it's always right over and over again. So the family parameters will help you manipulate options within the family, but they cannot be extracted once they're in a project file. If the parameter that controls the element in the family needs to be in a schedule, make it a shared parameter. So shared parameters are stored in a TXT file for reuse. Ours is on the server in the Revit folder. So we got all kinds of stuff in here for sales and for takeoff. So all the Walters and Wolf shared parameters live in this file. They can be used again and again, as I've already said. So here I'm adding that IF2 parameter from the shared parameter folder or file location. And the path to that gets set up in your project. This is just a quick video showing how I've gone to the shared parameter folder, I've grabbed my parameter, and I've set it up in my family. So they are available for schedules, and they can also be used as project parameters. So when you get to project parameters, they can be from the shared parameter file, or they can be created just within the project to be used in that project only. They're assigned to the different categories in the Revit file. So maybe they're assigned to curtain panels, maybe the parameter needs to be available for curtain panels and walls. So when you select on those elements in the model, that parameter is available. So in the case of the elevation parameter, we have it assigned to walls, but we also do have it assigned to curtain panels. So when it's created in the project and you pick on that element, it's now available to you over in the properties. And so that's just a little screenshot of how that project parameter shows up. They can be used in a schedule, whether they're pulled from a shared parameter file or not. And project parameters can be assigned to global parameters. Global parameters are a good way to control model elements within a project. We won't get into too much detail here, but I think people have been experimenting with, and it's a nice way to globally control some things. So in the case of this, we've got some heights that the guys are controlling in the frames. So they always want interhors 3 to be 2'4", so they can grab that value in all the frames and just tell it, associate it with this parameter. They change it here once and it's off. They don't have to change it in a bunch of places, which is really nice, but they're only in the project and they cannot be set to shared, and they are not available to use in schedules. So determine which parameters are needed to pull the data, get those into the schedule. And then, so those parameters are creating columns of the data. So here we're just picking what parameters we need here. I'm gonna schedule just a quick little video. I'm gonna count the curtain wall, the curtain panel units, and I'm going to use the description parameter as my filter. And then I'm gonna grab the width and height of the frames. So I go and set that filter to curtain wall, which is just the value that lives in those families. And now I'm telling it to sort by the family and then the width and the height, and we don't need to itemize every instance. I just want it to highlight the different elements. So you can see it's finding the different families and the different height sizes. All right, so formatting. If we want to use it in a formula, so calculating that non-glazed in that total metal panel face surface value. So I add those parameters to the schedule that are going to be needed in the formula. I need a formula that's going to calculate that surface area. So I need the name of the material to filter it, and then I need the volume and the thickness parameters, which are something, one of the volume is set by default, and we set the thickness to the thickness of our extrusion. And then I'm creating that total square feet parameter. And I'll show you that in a couple steps. So creating a calculated parameter, you just pick on the little function button. You come in here, you give that parameter a name right here up at the top. Make sure you set it to the right type. And then in this case, I've got material volume divided by material thickness. So picking on the little ... These are the parameters I added to the schedule, and these are ones that are available for a formula, and I need volume and thickness. So I chose material volume, and then divided by, and then the material thickness. And what that does is it takes that 1/8 inch thick extruded shape, and it takes out the thickness so that I just get that total surface area. So that's one way of doing it, having a formula in your, and so you'll see that it creates another column, that total square feet. This is an example of combining parameters in a schedule. So I have unit type and I have unit or number of lights. And we use this at the bid phase to understand the shop labor cost for the frames. So they're either custom, oversized, or standard, and then they have however many lights. But the product, what I want to give to the estimator is a combination of these two values. And I can't do it in Revit as it is. I can't do it in the families very well. It kind of gets complex, but I can combine them once the families are in the project, and I can pull those two columns together and make it look like it's actually one value. So that's when you're combining parameters. So that's this option down here. And you don't have to, I don't think when you're combining parameters, I don't think you even have to actually add them necessarily over here. I think they'll be available to you no matter what, unlike the formula one. So we go to the next step. We're giving the combined parameter a name. I call it frame type. And then I just pull from the list and add those two parameters over here. And it comes with some default, like little separators and stuff. And you can do all kinds of formatting with this, but I just took those out because I just want them to be squished together. And so that's the result, is just combining those two parameters to get that one frame type value. So that's a really simple thing to do. Conditional formatting, just like in Excel. So you can pick the parameter, the unit type in this case. I want it to highlight anything that's oversized is what I'm doing here. So I pick on that unit type parameter right up here and then select the conditional format option. And then say, it already knows I'm looking at unit type and I want it, when it's equal to O, to tell me it's red. All right. So those are the basics, some very basic things that you can do in schedules. So now we'll just talk about making changes to parameters using a schedule. So right now I have CWA, guardrail, and SW. And so maybe I made a mistake or a typo. So I'm looking at my schedule, doing a little quality control on myself, and I see that. Well, I can highlight it just out of curiosity and go back to 3D and say, well, what did I do? Oh, I've got this wall down here. And maybe it's multiple walls, maybe it's a whole lot of walls. But while it's selected right here, I can just set it to CW and it'll get incorporated into that CW square footage. So right from here, I didn't have to change to 3D. I just knew I could look at 3D if just out of curiosity, but if I know that it's wrong and I just made a boo-boo, I can actually change it right here and it'll get gobbled up into the appropriate system type. So schedules are helpful for being able to do that when you're doing a little QC on yourself. Let's see, export a schedule to Excel. Oh, I don't want to do that yet. I want, where am I? Oh, I lost this. I lost an example. Hang on just a second. For some reason. Let me just take a look at what's going on over here. Oh, I lost something. Okay, well, I'll show you a couple of other examples. We don't need PowerPoint for that. So a couple of other examples that I have here. Let's see. What do I want to do? Oh yeah, no, I think I did show you. I think I showed you the basics that I wanted to show you. Unit count by system, metal panels. We talked about this guy. So here, the elevation value in those frames should also just be set to CW. And so again, if I highlight this, it shows me the frames right here. So those, I'll go ahead and set to CW as well. And that ups my count. Yeah, I guess those are kind of the basics. We have a lot of stuff that we use in sales. So assembly joinery counts. This is counting separated out by system, how many connections there are to a frame. So there's 46 frames that have 4 connections, 156 that have 8. And again, this is looking at shop labor for assembly. Back pans. I open this one, we're getting our back pan count with our width and height. Sealant, this is tallying all of the sealant in the vertical direction. We actually combine a couple of these schedules in Excel. So I take a horizontal sealant joint and a vertical sealant joint and export those to Excel, and we have a formula that brings it all together to get our total panel sealant. It was too difficult to try to do in Revit, and actually that's done with, that's part of our export with Dynamo Routine. Let's see, handrails. So 824 square feet. Do we have any extended beauty caps? So these are our standard schedules that we use in our template. Yeah, so we have some beauty caps here just in this sample file. So yeah, so after you get information, if you did want to take it to Excel, it's super easy. You just do a file export and go down to reports, schedule, and it'll ask you where you want it. Where do you want to export it? And it exports it as a TXT file. And then there's some prompts, and I always just take the defaults. And then you can go to Excel and open that TXT file. Slowly. So you just want to make sure you come down here and tell it all files, because it's just a TXT. And when I open that, I get prompted, how do I want to format it? So you can go through the different steps if you want to make any changes. And then you get this basic export. So we've taken this to another level at sales. This comes in just basic. It comes in as a TXT, and you have to save it as an Excel file if you want to keep it as an Excel file. So what we've done with Dynamo is we've actually exported all of our schedules at one time into a master pre-formatted Excel file. So that's a combination of using schedules to get your information organized, and then Dynamo to select the schedules you want and the columns that you want, and to push it into that Excel file all at one time, pre-formatted, and skip all those little steps. Otherwise, you have to export each of these one at a time to do for that. So that's where you can take it to the next level. So I think for the most part, that's a high level overview of some of the stuff you can do. I've used it so many different ways. It's hard to just come up with, cool stuff on the fly necessarily, but it seems like, we can check ourselves. We can come up with new ways to organize the information, and depending on what you have to work with. So I guess at this point, I would say, does anybody have any ideas or questions, or does this interest anybody? Does it look helpful? No?
So for the schedules, when you went to export that, were there other options other than TXT when you went to export?
Let's see, file. I think that's the only option. Or you can do schedule. TXT is the only thing there. I think you can send it. I thought you could send it to a database at one point in time, but let's see. ODBC. Yeah, so I don't know what this is. You probably do. Do you know what ODBC database is?
Yeah, that would send it, like you could do like an Access database or something from there.
Okay.
But in the Excel one, it's just text, right?
Yeah, in Excel, it's just text.
Okay, makes sense. And so if you wanted something that was a little more bi-directional, that's where Dynamo comes in, right?
Yes, I have used Dynamo to export a schedule out to Excel, have somebody fill in another column of information in Excel, and then saving it, and then having Dynamo pull from that Excel file and push it back into the model. So I've played with having units, like setting a unit number. If I have a unit number column, export, and somebody else were to fill it in, and I don't have it filled in the model yet, and then they save that Excel and Dynamo pulls it, it pushes those values right back into that parameter that's holding the placeholder parameter. So it can go out. But the nice thing about the Dynamo is you can do them all at once, and you can pre-format it with the Dynamo nodes. So if we go to that route, just real quick, I can show you our export. It takes it a second to get open. Gabe, can you think of anything while I'm opening this up? Is there anything you think I missed?
No, I mean, we use it for, people are probably familiar with it for the embeds and anchor schedule, and the gym notes page for all of the fasteners and parts and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can play around with it and make anything really.
So I have a quick question. For the tables, can you only put text in them, or could they return an image?
You can do an image. You have to set it up. Okay, we'll leave this open for a second, then I'll go, well, maybe I can go back to Revit. Yeah, so if, go ahead.
Is that how, like in our gen notes where we've got the text and the images beside it, is that like through Revit tables?
I'm not sure how you guys have it set up for that, but I do know when I've played with images before, I had the image saved in the families, and then when the families were living in the model, I could pull up a schedule that would get the family name, and it would pull that image that was living in the family. I'd have to go back. It's been a long time since I've done it, but if I go, oh man, it's just been so long since I've done that. I know I've done it though. URL, maybe I used the URL. So you can put a URL in there that will open, that will go to it. But I know it's possible.
Yeah, for the
Is it-
setting
Yeah,
blocks, it's built in. Sorry.
For the what?
Oh yeah,
Gabe can go.
I was gonna say, yeah, currently what we're doing is for the gen notes, like Jessica was saying, for setting block 280, the data will come in, and then we'll assign the picture that we take from the server of what the 280 setting block looks like, and apply that to a parameter that gets inputted into the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, so here, I think this is where I've done it, type image. Yeah, and you created a raster image, and then you could pull that type image. Okay, that's what it was. Let's see. Schedule. In here, type image, there it is. Yeah, so that would pull that same thing. So that's an image that was in the family. But yeah, so there's really different ways. Oops. But going back to this one, so this is a Dynamo routine that it looks at the schedules, all the schedules in our sales model. And then each one of these sections is looking at a specific schedule, and then it's looking at specific columns, because you know, if I just wanted each schedule, like I wouldn't worry about specifying columns. I just do an export, or, you know, you could still export them all at once through Dynamo, but I wanted to export them all at once, but I only want specific columns ultimately in that sheet for the estimator. And then these are the custom nodes that package it. So it's saying what's the sheet name and where do you want this data to go? And this is a custom Bumblebee package. That packages that all up, and you can actually have, they actually have one that does formatting it for you as well, but I just pre-formatted the Excel file because it was so easy. And then here it just runs it, sends it to the Excel file. So it's doing all of those at one time. So it's a huge time saver right there. So use the schedules to get something set up. And if you have to do lots of exports, use Dynamo to do it all at one time. So was anybody wanting more in depth than that? Like, I mean, that's a pretty high level without going into too many specifics, I think.
Good question. So are these schedules coming in with sales models now?
Yes, the guys we're exporting all of these schedules right now. Actually, I don't even know if they're all in here. Let's see if I can find an example.
But are they in the Revit models also, or are they just exported?
The schedules are in the template. Well, we have a template that we pull them from. So they'll start with the Walters and Wolf regular template, and then they'll insert those schedule views from our schedule template. If I go, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but if I go to Revit, template. So this sales model schedule master file, they insert them from here. So when they're in the Revit model, they just say insert, insert from file, insert views, and then they can go pull those schedules from that template.
And they, so like if I open a job that we just booked, let's say in Revit, inside that Revit file, those schedules would be there, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So they're bringing them in from here. Then we run a couple of Dynamo routines to get some the elevation values set to all of the curtain panels, and then we use the other Dynamo routine to export them, all of those schedules to that. I'm not going to let this upgrade. We don't need to see it.
Okay. So if it starts reading, say, the quantity of units from the sales model, how does it start reading the units being modeled by the guys once it gets to the drafting department?
We don't. Well, that's a good question. We'll work on that. We're going to work on that. Right now, they're counted by unit because this is a curtain panel family. When it goes to, Gabe, maybe you could answer this. Was there a way, can they, well, they use the take, when they've modeled it again in operations, it gets pulled with the takeoff program, right? You can get a unit count.
You can use it. The takeoff browser will show you the units that are being made in the project. We can also make another schedule that looks for the parameters that Zach has, which is unit. So if there's a wall that has that shared parameter is unit, you can make a schedule and it'll give you the total counts and types and all that stuff.
You said make a schedule, Gabe, that grabs is unit?
Yeah, I believe so. This is, I don't know if this is model, I think this is sales model, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, in our standard wall types, when we make the units, they'll be checked as is unit, which is a parameter that can be added to the schedule.
So we can compare and see how we did. You know, the first unit count. Yeah. Cool. Does that help, Javier?
Yeah, I think so.
A lot changes between the sale. It can change between the sale, you know, the bid and the actual project. But
yeah, I guess what I was thinking is like, can we use this tool to down the road to compare how the building is changing? You know, because it changes after start working on it. So quantity of units, yeah, things like that.
yeah, and I think, you know, this will be evolving. You know, we'll figure out how to evolve it to keep it more. Well, we just have to see where the modeling goes over time. But we can the nice thing, I mean, we can visually, I don't know, can we visually do a compare with Spin 360 on that? No, because the whole thing will be different anyway. But yeah, I mean, we could still look at original data and whole new data. Yeah. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have any questions or want to try a schedule in like one of like, you know?
I've used them before drafting. Like I've made simple ones to check my units or make like count panels and stuff. So they're definitely useful for people who haven't tried them.
Okay, good. Can I show how to add a new parameter? Okay, so add a new parameter to a schedule, Yana? You want to, so like if I make a new schedule, how do I add a parameter to the schedule, or do you want to know how to make a parameter?
How to make a parameter?
Okay, so that's a good question. You can make them in the project. So if we were going to make a project parameter, I hung up. There we go. Come on, Revit. What are we doing? Let me get that. Shake it up a little bit here. Seems to be hung up. Let's close Dynamo. No. Oh wow, it's really. Nope. Cancel. It's being weird. Okay. So if I wanted to make a new project parameter, on the Manage tab, there's a project parameter. So say, if you wanted to put a filter on the curtain panels in this model, maybe you wanted to grab just the first floor, some first floor panels over in this area, you could create a project parameter just right in here and say add. And I'm not even going to pull from the shared parameters. I'm just going to make a project parameter. I'm going to call it Yana filter. And it's an instance, and I'm going to call it, or I'm going to make it a text parameter. And I'm going to put it under identity data, and I'm going to assign it to the curtain panels. So what this is doing is it's adding a parameter that once I can create that and give it some formatting, tell it what I want to do, I want to be able to put text in there. Ground floor, east, whatever, something. I want to be able to type text in that parameter placeholder once I pick on a curtain panel family. So I'm assigning that parameter to the curtain panels over here. So what that means is I'll say okay, so there's my new parameter, and then I can come down here, and if I pick on this curtain panel family now and I go to the identity data section, there's my Yana filter. So now I could say,
This is really cool.
so this is mine. Okay, so now we have 5 panel or curtain panel families that it might not like the special characters that are set to yours. So then you could say new schedule. You could actually filter down to curtain panels. You can call it Yana schedule. Oops. I can type right. Okay, so we're already filtering by curtain panels. And we're going to find that Yana filter. And we're going to say filter by Yana filter equals mine. So now that I filled in that value, it's available in this list. And now I'm going to get a list of just your curtain panels. Then I could say, okay, how big are they? So maybe I want to add a little bit more information, or what are they? So family and type parameter, that just hides, that's the, when we pick on a frame, that's the whole family and type, what is it? And then let's grab the width of the frame and the height of the frame. And then, so we still have our filter set, and we're going to sort it by the family and type. And then I also want to sort it by width and height. Now, if I say itemize every instance, it's going to show me all of them, even if they're the same sizes. If I tell it, just don't worry about itemizing, then it just tells me I have that guy, but I do need a count. It just shows me there's one in there. So I'm going to add a count. I'm going to move that count to the top. And if I needed it, maybe this doesn't matter. Maybe I just want to know the unique ones, but I don't need a count, but now I have a count. So now I can look at just specifically what I want. And you could go back into that model and you could say, add that, come down and set that filter again. And now we're going to add some more sizes. I'm going to make them close some of this other stuff. We don't need this. We don't need that. Got a bunch of stuff over here. Okay, and then go back to your schedule. And now we have this size and we have that size. So you can, I was wondering, I was curious to see if something like this would be helpful for you, if there was something you wanted to do in the model to help you like manage things.
I actually see the use of it when we have some kind of special area filtering, and it's not in our program. We don't take it in consideration. Let's say it's per floor, per side, south, north, west. I think it would be helpful to use these filters, because it's just like, besides the eyes, it's no other way to filter it for floor and the area. Let's say some kind of special coloring required on the south, only on the 4th floor or something like this. And I just want to filter it so it tells me exact units or exact elevation what goes there. So it's kind of, I can back check myself and change the color in the program. I'm just talking hypothetically.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But it happens. It happens.
Yeah. So again, it's easy to just go in and make a project parameter that's specific to the needs of that project. You know, a lot of parameters, we have hundreds of parameters that we use all the time and stuff that's very typical. But you could get into a project, understand what you need based on it, and then just create a project parameter or however many you need, just by coming in here and adding them in and then assigning them to what you care about. Do you care about generic models? Are you looking at parts? You know, like here, you could assign it to generic models, or, you know, you can see like our wall schedule is assigned to walls. There, you know, these are all the categories that are available to assign parameters to, so that when you select them in the model, you can fill in that value. So.
Could you show us how, if we're looking at a schedule, we could find the item in the schedule in the model?
So if you have heard, like say we have this schedule open and I want to know where this is, all I have to do is highlight it. I don't even know if you have to highlight the whole row. I think I just do that out of habit. And then if I just switch to 3D, it will show me where they are. So is that what you're asking?
This is really cool.
Okay. Yeah, so it helps you locate. Yeah, the schedules help you locate things for sure. I use it all the time to check myself. Like when stuff looks funny. Yeah. When things are looking weird in here, it's like, what did I miss? Why do I have a captured? I shouldn't have a JLC, a jam left captured. It's all in Viso jams. Why do I have a JLC? And so I can do an alias. If I do an alias schedule where we look at what we have set for our part types that we use that get translated in the database. If I grab that alias, I'm gonna do, let's just do alias. Let's just say alias parameter exists. You do have all these options here for filtering. Sorting, I wish there were more options for sorting, because once you get past 4 things that might be different, it starts to group stuff together and you get blanks in your schedule. So there is some strategy to that. But yeah, so let's sort it by alias. Oh, and we'll just do that. Let's see, what do we have? So in this project, we have head inviso, head opening captured, head parapet captured, intermediate horizontal captured. If I got in here and I said, you know, we're not supposed to have any vertical left captures. The vertical left are all supposed to be in Viso. I could either set it, you know, I could change the actual model here, or I could at least go into the model and see where it is that I have these parts that I didn't have set correctly, and then I could change them, you know, in the families. So let's see if it lets me, if I want to change that to VLI, it'll be changed to all element types where it's VLC. So let's see what happens. Is it actually updating my frames to where I have a vertical left in Viso? So all of those different family types, what did it do? I haven't actually tried what I just did. I've never tried that before.
It is kind of a raw version of the takeoff browser what Zach has, but the difference between takeoff browser what Zach has and this one, you cannot change it from the takeoff browser. You can't just type it there, kind of like.
Yeah.
And here it seems like you can. You
Yeah,
have to select it, and you have to like go to the properties and kind of.
Yeah, I think I was hoping what I just did would actually change the part type, but let's just do this and let's add this. So that one, all it did was change the alias, because the alias is an instance parameter, meaning it can be changed as opposed to a type parameter, because we use it in formulas. So let's see if I go to family and type. Where are you? Or do I just want, I don't know if that's going to help me.
Maybe Yana, something that we could implement would be a like revised after takeoff parameter or something in our units that we could check to keep track of them in a schedule. That might help. Do you think?
I totally see like a lot of uses for it. I think it will be very job specific. You kind of need to see, look at the job and see the sort of problem areas. I see good use for the if it's something going on per floor and per sides of the building, or we have specific areas, and if we could add it as a parameter and keep track of it, I think it would be very useful. It happens on the big projects usually.
Yes. So, and you know, you can do the same thing with materials. If you had some panels set to one material and some set to another, and they're all supposed to be the same, you probably can try changing them. So yeah, it's good to experiment with. We are out of time. Did anybody else have any other questions? Are we good?
I will bug you in person.
Oh yeah, I
No.
mean, yeah, I know a lot. It sounds like Jessica's worked with schedules. Gabe and I have worked with schedules. So, you know, I know there are a few people around that have worked in them that we can totally help you get what you need.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Awesome,
right.
Amy. It was
All right.
very intense.
Good. All righty. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry about the
Thank
technical.
you.
Okay.
No worries.
Bye.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye-bye.
bye.